The rain wasn't even heavy that night. Just that slow, persistent drizzle that soaks you before you realize you're wet. I remember the way the streetlight flickered, how the garbage bag in my hand made that cheap plastic crinkle sound every time I shifted my weight. Inside were my clothes, not folded, just shoved. My mother stood on the other side of the door. I could see her shadow through the foggy glass. She didn't say, "I love you." She didn't say, "I'm sorry." She just turned the lock. And on my 16th birthday, I learned that a parent can give you life and still decide one day that you are no longer their problem.
I was not a difficult child. Let me say that first. I got B's, not F's. I did my own laundry from age 12. I made dinner twice a week because my mother worked late at the call center. We lived in a small 2-bedroom apartment on the 2nd floor of a building with no elevator. Money was tight. I knew that. I never asked for new shoes. I never asked for birthday parties. My mother was a proud woman. She liked to tell people that she raised me alone after my father left when I was 3. And that was true. But alone doesn't always mean loving. Sometimes alone just means there's no one there to stop the quiet cruelty. She had a boyfriend named Ramesh. He drove a white van and sold used furniture. He was not rich, but he had a house, his own house, and my mother wanted that house. I could see it in the way she laughed at his jokes, in the way she started wearing the red lipstick she never wore for anyone else. Ramesh did not like me, not because I did anything, but because I was proof that she had a life before him. He would say things like, "She's 15. Time to start thinking about her future, some other family's future." My mother would laugh nervously. She would not defend me. I should have seen it coming, but you don't expect your own mother to treat you like old furniture, something to be sold or thrown away.
My 16th birthday fell on a Saturday. I woke up early and made tea for both of us. I put 2 biscuits on the saucer, a small celebration. She came to the kitchen in her nightsuit and said nothing about the date. I waited. Maybe she forgot. It happens. By noon, Ramesh arrived. He handed me a small box. Inside was a comb, a plastic comb, still in the store wrapper. "Happy birthday," he said, not looking at me. My mother smiled too brightly. Then she said, "Beta, we need to talk." She sat me down on the old brown sofa. Ramesh stood by the window. She said she had been thinking a lot, about my future, about her future, about how Ramesh's house was too small for 3 people. "We are getting married next month," she said, "and he has 2 sons. There's no space." I remember my hands were cold. "So where will I sleep?" I asked. She looked at Ramesh. He nodded once. Then she said the words I will carry for the rest of my life. "You are 16 now, old enough to find your own way." She handed me a black garbage bag, already half full. She had packed while I slept. And then she took my arm, not roughly but firmly, and walked me to the front door. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just looked at her face. It was the face of a stranger. She closed the door. I heard the lock turn. That was the moment my childhood ended, not with a bang, but with the click of a lock from a woman who used to kiss my forehead when I had a fever.
I stood outside for an hour, then 2. I considered going to my neighbor, Mrs. D'Souza from 204. She always gave me extra roti, but I was ashamed. How do you tell someone that your own mother threw you out on your birthday? So I walked. The garbage bag banged against my leg with every step. I had no phone. My mother took it. "You won't need it," she said. I had no money, except the 80 rupees in my school uniform pocket from last week. I had no friends whose parents would take in a teenager without asking questions. I spent that night at the bus stop near the vegetable market. I sat on the concrete bench and watched the night watchmen walk past. One of them, an old man with a gray mustache, gave me a banana at 3 a.m. He didn't ask why I was there. Maybe he already knew. Maybe he had seen this story before. The next week was survival. I found a small room for rent above a cycle repair shop, 1,500 rupees a month. The owner was a thin man with asthma. He didn't ask for ID. I told him I was 18. He believed me because I looked tired enough to be 18. I started working at a small tea stall near the railway station. The owner, Baya, paid me 200 rupees a day. I served tea from 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. My legs ached. My hands smelled of milk and ginger. But I had a roof, a borrowed mattress, a single bulb. I did not go back to school. How could I? The school fees were due. The uniform was inside that garbage bag. My mother had kept my birth certificate, my school records, everything. I was a ghost now. No documents, no home. Just a girl who made tea for strangers. The hardest part was not the hunger. It was the silence. At night, lying on that borrowed mattress, I would listen to the ceiling fan creak and think, does she even wonder where I am? I never got an answer. But 3 months later, I heard from Mrs. D'Souza that my mother had married Ramesh, that they had painted the house, that she looked happy. Happy. I repeated that word until it lost its meaning.
One evening, almost a year later, I was cleaning the tea stall when Baya said something strange. There's a woman looking for you. Came by yesterday, left a number. He handed me a torn piece of newspaper, a mobile number, no name. I didn't call for 3 days. Fear is a strange thing. You think you want answers, but answers can destroy the little piece you've built. Finally, I borrowed Baya's phone. A woman answered, not my mother, an aunt, my mother's younger sister, whom I had met only twice. She said, Beta, your mother is sick. Kidneys. She needs a transplant. The doctors say family is the best match. She wants to see you. I sat down on the ground. The tea stall floor was oily and black. I didn't care. My first thought was not anger. It was something worse. It was hope. Stupid, desperate hope. She wants me. She needs me. But then my aunt said something else. Ramesh left her, took the house. She has nothing. No money, no insurance. She's alone. And in that moment, I understood. She did not want her daughter. She wanted her daughter's kidney. That night, I didn't sleep. I stared at the bulb, the same bulb that had lit my small room for 10 months, and I realized something. I had survived without her, but she could not survive without me, and that changed everything. I did not call back immediately. I gave myself 1 week. During that week, I went to a legal aid clinic near the station. They were young lawyers, fresh out of college, idealistic. I told them my story. They typed everything. They asked for proof. I had none. But one of them, a girl named Mira, said, we can file a complaint for abandonment. You were a minor. What she did is illegal. Illegal. I had never thought of it that way. To me, it was just my life. To the law, it was a crime. But I didn't want revenge. I didn't want to put my mother in jail. I wanted 2 things, my documents and a written acknowledgement that I existed, that I was not a garbage bag to be thrown out. Mira helped me draft a simple letter. It said, I will meet you at the government hospital for a medical conversation. Bring my birth certificate, school records, and a written statement that you abandoned me on my 16th birthday. These are not negotiable. I sent the letter through my aunt. A week later, my aunt called back. She's crying. She says yes, she'll bring everything. Crying. I wondered if the tears were real. I decided it didn't matter. For the first time, I was holding the pen, not her. We met at the hospital cafeteria. Fluorescent lights, plastic chairs, the smell of antiseptic. My mother looked smaller than I remembered, thinner. Her hair had gray streaks. She wore an old salwar kameez that didn't fit properly. She slid a plastic folder across the table. Inside, my birth certificate, my school leaving certificate, my Aadhaar card, everything I needed to exist again, and a handwritten letter. In it she wrote, on 16th August, I locked my daughter out of the house. She was 16 years old. I did not provide for her. This is the truth. She was crying, silent tears. I watched them fall on the letter. She reached for my hand. I let her. Her fingers were cold. I was wrong, she whispered. I was so wrong. Please, I'm dying. Forgive me. The doctors had already told my aunt that I was not a perfect match. Even if I wanted to give my kidney, I couldn't. So she wasn't asking for my organ anymore. She was asking for my forgiveness. I looked at her. This woman who had given me life, who had taught me to tie my shoelaces, who had also handed me a garbage bag and turned a lock. I said, I will not give you my kidney, because I can't, but I will give you something else. I will sit with you at the hospital for 3 hours every Sunday. I will bring you fruit. I will not call you Mom because you lost that name, but I will call you by your first name. That is what you are to me now, a person I used to know. She nodded. She didn't argue. Maybe she knew she had no right to.